here we are, ladies and gentlemen. This is Code and Commentary. James Hicks here. That guy to my left, right, whomever, whichever way you got your screen mirrored, Dr. Chris Stone.
What
Man,
is up? What is up? Man, I can't
I don't know.
wait for this.
And listen, we're going to have a conversation about something. I'm not sure what we're going to talk about, but there will be a lesson. There will be some homework for everyone listening and watching. But the idea is really to get into uh, kind of social impact of business and technology. I'm kind of playing on words with some of my other sessions that I do. And if you saw what I did before, I really want to kind of go off of the cuff, kind of go 201, 301, just a deeper level conversation about technology conversations and about how they are impacting businesses and also folks within our ecosystem, digital content creators. Does that make sense?
That does.
'Cause
That does.
makes- I
This
wanna
is
make sure
not
it makes
just your
sense to me.
run of the mill. This is not your run of the mill tech podcast here.
No.
We're gonna go deep.
Yes, we are. Yes,
We're
we are going to get. And listen, Senior is here too. So anytime my
Oh,
dad
man.
shows up, that means
Yeah.
it's an official
Right
show.
at the start too.
You
Hey,
know.
let me straighten up. Let me.
Straighten up and fly right there. Who sung
Okay.
that song?
All right.
Yeah.
All right. See, I wish I was as cool to have my dad show up on one of my shows, on one of my 17 or 18 shows, however many shows you have.
I do have a lot, man. I do. I'm putting in some work, but just like you as well. And most of my audience knows you. But listen, we still be remiss if I didn't let you give the 30-second elevator pitch. Who is Mr. Chris Stone, if you don't mind?
I'll do it in 27 seconds. How's that? My name is Chris Stone, and I'm at castahead.net, and I work with motivated entrepreneurs to put together a show because most of the time people don't want to understand how delivery systems and files and what the bit rate is and all of those things that you have to do a podcast or a show or a live show. We do that for them. They step out of their trailer, up to their microphones and their cameras, and we handle all the rest. And I also co-host a show on Amazon with my good buddy Jim Fuse called Dealcasters, where we jump into the biggest mall in the world and solve people's problems live, talking about tech, podcasting gear, live streaming, all of that fun stuff. And I get to be on cool shows like James Hicks.
Dude, that right there. I'm chopping that up here in about an hour. Right? Just
Okay.
right
All right. That's it, man. Repurpose.
That's it.
With purpose.
And you know what? I'd be remiss as well if I didn't say happy birthday to Mr. Fuse. I believe he celebrated another trip around the sun. So we want to say happy birthday.
He's only 84 years old this week. So
I didn't do it to you, Jim.
Right.
Oh my God. I didn't do it. We mentioned the word podcast, and I positioned to you kind of a title and a theme is the rebirth of the podcast. And as I wrote that down, and as I even wrote some questions down and sent that to you, you've actually put out a handful of really nice bits of content on your newsletter and on your social channels focusing on podcasts. By your definition, what is a podcast? But by your because they've been around for so long, and then again from a title side, I said the rebirth of the podcast. But is it really a rebirth? And what is your definition of a podcast?
Yeah, here's the thing. My definition of what a podcast is kind of doesn't matter. And I could tell you, well, a podcast has to be, a recorded audio feed on an RSS feed, which is delivered through, all of the podcast players, and it needs to be audio only. I could say that YouTube, just because they say they have podcasts, those are still just videos, which these are things that people actually say, and they actually are getting in arguments over on social media. Mm-hmm. But if there's one thing I learned, James, in the music business for as long as I was in there, is that the mechanisms, the delivery systems, the way people consume content, those kinds of things, you have no control over. And if you call it a record, or you call it an album, or you call it a single, or you call it a stream, or it doesn't matter. It's music. And so I think people get hung up on podcasts because they're maybe a traditionalist and they've been around for a while, and they kind of feel like you're kind of smudging the name. Okay. So I get that. I want to, you have to respect some of these people that have been in the game for as long, and they are the stalwarts in this industry. But this thing has been changing for a while, and as of late, especially with the advent of what YouTube is doing, it is really kind of, changing what people view as a podcast. I mean,
Yeah.
you know this, you throw on your television, start watching. Sometimes people think that's a podcast. And eventually this kind of stuff is, no matter what you feel about it, it's moving. And if you sit back in your traditionalist chair and you say, well, that's not a podcast, and that's not a podcast, and that's not a podcast, you're going to be passed by. And it happened in the music business, and it happened with the biggest of the bigs. What matters is what people are moving towards and what they're consuming. And if they're going to YouTube and they're watching a video of two people having a conversation with a microphone, which can be considered a podcast. But if you go to the YouTube podcast section, there's a lot of videos on there that really don't seem like what you think is a podcast.
Right.
But
Right.
YouTube's algorithm does. And so, there's that. And, in the end, I don't make the definition. The greater consumption will drive that.
So that's where I wanted to go. So who has the onus, right, of really defining, or is there anyone? Is it the consumer, or is it the one that's creating the content? Do you think? Because you and I have both been around for a minute, so we were part of the RSS feed days, and
Sure.
I've seen it kind of mature, die off, and come back into different types of formats and things of that nature. If we want more folks, if we want to grow the community, if we want to have more engagement, if we want more eyes and ears to hear the message, is the onus on us to re-educate the consumer that you can use Spotify, you can use Apple Music, you can use YouTube, you can use whatever those platforms are, and it's the same thing. One may be audio, one may be video. But again, I guess my long-winded question is the onus on us to educate the end consumer, or should we as the creator fall in line with what the expectation is of the everyday consumer who's looking to learn, looking to garner some content?
I think if we take it upon ourselves to do that education, we'll just be going insane. And spending too much time maybe trying to do that, and that's distracting us from what we should be focusing on, which is delivering content to the people that we serve, solving their problems. And if they do have a problem in understanding a podcast, okay, when we can, then we could go there if that's what your key audience is. But I think, I'd love to be able to easily solve that problem and educate people about that. But in the end, most people, their eyes glaze over, and they just this is what a podcast is, right? Again, I kind of go back to configuration, right? And so the resurgence of vinyl just over the past maybe
I know
10
about
years
that.
or so.
My kids have more
Sure.
albums than that's a good one. That's a good one.
And so it's like a physical piece. And listen, I lived through the death of physical product and jumped on aboard my Sony digital boat in the form of a ringtone. And then that boat started to sink, and I jumped into the streaming business while I was still at Sony. But this is the whole idea, is that, it's all music. And in this case, it's all the content that you're creating. Now, I will say this, and this is one thing I think that adds to this whole rebirth concept, James, is that you talked about being everywhere for people. I do believe you need to be everywhere. However, I don't think you need to be the same type of content everywhere. So
there you go. Okay,
so
let's go into that.
YouTube. Yeah. So it's YouTube, right? Because ultimately we're talking about, okay, audio podcast, YouTube, and then you've got a bunch of social media and maybe vertical entertainment platforms, right? Whether it's TikTok, and maybe you're jumping on Instagram Reels. These are different things, right? When you open up Instagram, you're ready to consume something. Like the person that lands on Instagram that hits it with their thumb and goes and views it. And I say hit with my thumb, you can go on the web, but the numbers are very, very small. So they're going on their phones. Okay. If you're hitting them with a podcast and Instagram, is that
the wrong place?
Right? Like how should that look?
Place. Yeah, because
should it be a graphic with a squiggly line?
Yeah, we go to right. So no audiograms. We go to each of these platforms with an expectation for consumption.
That is correct.
We go to Facebook with one preconceived expectation. We go to Instagram for a preconceived consumption. I'm still trying to figure out TikTok. I'm doing okay on TikTok right now, but I'm still trying to figure out this algorithm. But I'm out there in these streets. But you're right. You can't be lazy with your cross posting and expect the same thing on like a YouTube to resonate on LinkedIn or on I was gonna say Snapchat, but I'm not on there. That's where the kids hang out. I'm not.
Just
cool
wait.
like
it'll
that.
come. It'll come back around, man.
Will it come back around?
Else.
Okay.
I don't
But right. That's exactly where you were going, man. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's
no. It's true. I would say that and I've done it where I'm posting the same thing on especially in the vertical platforms, but I'm doing it purposefully in terms of like, okay, is this going to resonate with the audience here versus here versus here versus here? Are people going to engage with this content here, or are they not? Like, does this type of content work here? So it's more of a sprint and then read it back and get some sort of an analogy. But you have to create a different experience, and it's twofold. There's different expectations, like we talked about, somebody that opens up TikTok versus somebody that opens up YouTube to watch a long form video versus opens up their Spotify podcast player, Apple Podcast, whatever, to listen to something immersive on their run.
Right.
Completely different. The other thing that you have to do is if you have lots of super fans, let's just say, or even if it's a handful of super fans, these are people that are like, whatever you're doing, I'm following you here, I'm subscribing with you here. If you're putting the same thing everywhere, what's the point of them following you everywhere? And you need to have so it's your opportunity to create something additional for the people who follow you. So you may say my linchpin, my cornerstone of my content is my YouTube channel. Well, then your TikTok should not have the same content that your YouTube channel is. If you want to drive people to your YouTube channel, you should be creating something on TikTok where if you get new people, they're like, what else does this guy have? Oh, he's got a YouTube channel, and I'm going to my YouTube channel. And then those people who already subscribed to you on YouTube, they see you on TikTok and it's like, well, I haven't seen this before. This is a different clip. This is something else. This is something that's appropriate for this platform because I came here expecting content like this.
I came to those platforms expecting the 30, 60, 90 second type of dopamine hit that I'm not getting from maybe a long form piece of content on YouTube or something of that nature. And again, that's that avoiding the lazy posting kind of scenario, as I was saying. Super fans. You've got Gail here. I'm sure she's one of your
Gail,
super
Chief
fans.
Curiosity Officer. I love that title. She's used that for as long as I've known her, and I love that title.
I love that. And she says, important to know who your audience is and post accordingly. Dr. Stone knows his stuff. Dr. Stone knows.
I learned it all from Gail Robertson.
I love it. See, there we go. Hanging out with good people. I'm just, here trying to hang from the back, carrying your bags as you go through the airport.
Oh, please, man.
So
I'll carry yours as well, man.
That's it. Let's think about that, right? Because again, you will be on various platforms. You'll lock in on a certain type of a content, but again, what I'm seeing you push out from a visual perspective, we'll get into the newsletter later. But, the newsletter is a whole nother animal, what you're doing, which is amazing. But the visual pieces that you're putting out from a micro content perspective, it is doing that. It's hooking in some of that same audience that you already have. But I really, third person looking in, it seems like you're reaching for a new audience because the micro content can stand on its own.
You have a very discerning eye, my friend. You have a very discerning eye, my friend.
Come on now.
Yeah, there's not a lot that I do that is just kind of winging it. In fact, I don't wing anything. I spend I've spent too much time doing this stuff, um, that and I have too much fun doing this stuff, to just wing it. And so a lot of times, what you'll see is the content I'm seeing, and who it's for is James. I have I don't want to say a handful of clients, but the business that I do is producing shows for people. And that is not something that is, inexpensive, let's just say. It's for some people that are like, listen, I need this for my business. I don't want to learn how to do it, and I don't want to hire somebody on my staff to do it. I want to hire someone that's going to come in and do it for me.
Mm.
And it's like it's kind of like the CPA model to do your taxes. Like, you don't want to keep up with all of the tax information that happens every year. You hire a CPA and you throw all your receipts over there and you say, tell me how much I owe Uncle Sam or how much I'm going to get, whatever. And then you trust that person that they're going to do it because they're the tax professional. I don't mow my own lawn. As soon as I could afford someone else to mow my lawn, I was like, I am paying that person. I hate to mow my lawn and I always kill it. So that's what I'm going to do. And so that's my situation is, I'm coming in as this person, but I have a ton of people that I deal with that I don't want to turn away and I want to help. I just can't spend enough time with them. And so there's a lot of content that I create, the newsletters, the now having a new site put together to where if someone can land on my website, they know what we do and who we do it for. But if you're not someone that can afford our services and there still is a place for you to learn. There still is a place for you to have to be part of the community. And I can still serve those people. They're just not technically my clients. I still want to be able to help those people, even if they can't, pay me. I just don't have time for it.
Makes sense. Now, where are you positioning besides your main website, right? Are you positioning your services and your offerings through your live streams and through your podcast? Since again, that's pretty much what we're talking about. Or are you locking that in and only pushing folks to castahead.com and things of that nature, and your LinkedIn newsletter or something like that? Are you leveraging your audio and video podcasts for marketing activities?
It's castahead.net. Not
Oh my
.com.
gosh.
That's okay.
We can cut that
okay.
out. Don't worry.
That's
I
okay.
know Final Cut.
Our friend Laura Davidson got that wrong the other day as well.
Okay.
So you're not alone.
I know Final Cut. I can edit that.
What were we now? Maybe.
Yeah,
you just threw me off. So repeat the question.
Are you leveraging other locations, other properties for your marketing activities, or are you actually pushing that to your podcast as well?
Most of the clients that I have were referral business, and they came from someone else seeing what I've done. And I learned early on, like, this is my repertoire is my resume. And so if I can show people, and they can be a part of the shows that I produce, guests, host, if they can see the content, and I got a client the other day because they were on one of our shows that I produce, and they were like, "Oh man, that was great!" But there wasn't a kind of hard pitch or anything afterwards. But I put together a reel for them and just sent it to them.
Nice.
After the show, just sent it to them, and then they were like, "You know what? We need to talk about this. If you can do what you just did on that show and then do this is something, that we can turn into." And so, yeah, I mean, a lot of it's going to be the website. Like I said, would it be nice if I had, 100 clients, I guess, but I mean, it's not something that I feel like I couldn't really be intrinsically involved in 100 clients at this point.
And give your full level of attention to your expectation, right? To the level that you want to give, I would expect, right?
And I think right now the expectation is everybody is like, I'm getting Chris Stone. I'm not getting a person Chris Stone is hiring to bring in to do it. And so I want to be confident that they feel
That's a
like
good point.
that's seamless.
Man, we can go in a whole different pivot right there. That's a whole good point right there as well. You sign up to work with X, and unfortunately sometimes you get Y and Z, and you get a whole
Yeah.
different type of expectation, but that's not what I wanted. If
Nope.
you maintain a more niche, if you maintain a more locked in focus, you know how I love the word focus. If you maintain that and you only work with more of a handful of, again, we'll use the term super fans, since the Pat Flynn's and the other folks of the world have said that
Yeah.
before, then you can give them your all. Then you can give them, you can sprinkle the stone dust on them. Wait a minute. Is it stone? Okay. There we go.
Yeah,
Holy
that kind of worked. Yeah.
I don't know. It's again, it's late night Michigan right now. Who knows what's
They
going
call
on.
that granite.
That's
But no, it's true. And it's like the other thing too is that and this blows people's minds is that, especially other entrepreneurs, I really love to do it.
yeah,
Um, I'm going to have a real problem, and I have had, where I'm having other producers do, what I had been doing for a while, and I have a real problem, sort of letting go, because I do like it. I really do. I love doing a lot of times. A lot of times I'll be, sitting down. It's a lot of problem. That's probably why I had such a back issue, is because I was sitting down too much doing all of this editing that I do. I love it.
so you like the tactical piece as much as you like the creative side as well? Because
Absolutely.
it's obvious from the output that, one, yeah, you know the platforms, you know how to do the thing, and some of the assets and the things and the nuance that you put in some of these clips, or all your clips, I can tell that there's some heart and soul into it as well. So the tactical piece is on par with you as the creative piece as well.
Absolutely. I
Wow.
think a lot of times
Wow.
if I can marry the right type of content and the people that I'm working with, and be able to take their hour-long interview, and I put it into Descript, and I kind of I read it, and I don't even look at it. It's fresh in my mind because I've produced it, but I can find a clip and say this reads like a really great way to deliver a story in under 59 seconds. And I'll pull that out, and then I watch it, and it I see things, and it just comes it's like I I just kind of see a story, as it goes, and I just kind of use all my, whether it's Final Cut or Descript, or all of the little bells and whistles that I use to help tell that story. I There's really not a secret to it. It just is like I think about it, and I pull it in, and I pull in sounds, and it'd be like, and then I probably spend a little bit too much time on it. And for a while, if I have a deadline, I have to set
Yeah.
time blocks on it, or I'll just keep going. I'll just keep going. I'll just keep going.
That's something that I've also having to become cognizant of as well. Trying going too deep, getting in my own way as opposed to getting some content out. I want to say what's going on to some folks coming in. So we saw Laura
Yeah.
Williams come in. Appreciate you for being here,
Hey, Laura.
my friend. And this guy's got a cooler name than you, Layman.
Breaking it down in layman's terms,
Breaking it
Doug
down,
Layman.
come on, man. That man got a cooler name than you. But love the content strategy talk on
You
repurposing
just
and
made him
knowing.
smile.
That's all good. Let me ask you this right here. Staying up with the current iterations of technology and pushing out different types of content, speaking to like what Doug was saying right there, content strategy. We were talking about podcasts, talking about your newsletter as well, encompassing all of those into the Cast Ahead business model. Where do you see short and midterm in terms of technologies that you're going to be leveraging to communicate to your customers? Are you going to continue to try to be at all the places at all times? Are you going to try to be on all
Mhm.
the micro content sites, on all the video sites, and also do the newsletter? Or do you see kind of an ebb and flow in terms of where the technology is going right now?
I think the technology overall is going more towards video in terms of podcasting. And I think most of the time, the people that I'm dealing with are people that are in that struggle of, I've been doing an audio podcast for years and now I've got to do video. And
Yeah.
I'll be honest, like, I believe that everyone should be on YouTube, and because not only is it the world's second biggest search engine, but like, it's the first thing that I do and many people do just to get a sense of who this person is. And it's not just for
Yeah.
determining podcast guests, it's for, determining if this is a good person that you want to hire to do a filmography, or if this is a good pest controller, or seriously, like, it doesn't matter what it is. If you're not on YouTube and you don't have something that gives a person a sense of who you are and what your business is, who you serve and how much, and all of the things you should be like, they may be going to your website, but they're probably doing some other recon before they even hit that website. And so this is what I'm trying to stress to most people is, instead of, trying to figure out how to get what is your podcast onto YouTube, create a YouTube channel that serves the people that you're trying to serve, and then figure out how you can take your podcast content and incorporate it in that light. And so that kind of changes how people kind of frame everything. It's not like, let me just take this and make a Xerox copy of it, and make a Xerox copy and make Xerox. You ever like, we're going to talk some old man talk now. So
You already said the word Xerox there. Good
I
Lord.
know, like, yeah, exactly. Let's make a Xerox
Let's go and
copy
make some
of a copy.
fax machines. Okay.
You remember when you would get a copy that had, like, somebody had made a copy of it so many times you couldn't even read the words on it because it had been copied so many times.
Yes.
Right? Like the old college or high school football playbook. It was like, coach, does that say running back? Or,
Yeah.
you don't.
Had
And
stuff
so
spilled all over. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Yep.
it's like, don't just make copies of what you're doing and just put it everywhere. It doesn't work. The only thing that works is if you want to be there from a real estate perspective, so nobody steals your name and your brand and all that, that's totally fine. And you want to park content there until you can figure out your strategy, that's not the worst thing in the world. But if you think that if you're just fire hosing all of this content out there onto all of these platforms, that's what you're supposed to be doing and it's going to be successful for you, it's not. So keep in mind, putting content out there, analyzing it, and making sure you're delivering it right for the audience, finding out where it's not working, and go, how can I, cater to my audience here? And maybe not, right? Some people are just like, I'm done with TikTok, or I'm done with Instagram, or I'm done with Facebook. Okay. Well, just realize, like, there may be some of the people that you serve that are there. So maybe you should have something there, but it's just not the same thing you have everywhere else. So, and it doesn't have to be something super hard and post a ton of time, but you shouldn't, fold up your shop just because you don't like it.
That speaks to folks who have a plan. And I think folks that have the plan are the ones who can weather the storms, right? Because being an entrepreneur, being a content creator, being a creative, whatever we want to put the adjective this is a marathon, right? This really is a marathon. And if you don't have kind of that perspective in place first, and you just try to jump in because you see someone who you think has had an overnight success, you're going to be sadly mistaken. And you're going to be sadly disappointed. All right. So if you don't have the vision, I'm pointing over here to my wall because that's where my 2024 vision board is. If you don't have that already written down in terms of where you are, where you want to be, and how you're going to get there, and you don't start executing on that instead of just waking up, nothing wrong with waking up every day and putting stuff out there. But again, if it's not locked in, if it's not, again, I use focused, if it's not targeted towards your community and targeted towards your end goal, you're just throwing stuff on the wall.
That's
and
right.
You can burn yourself out. This should not be something that you burn yourself out on.
Yeah. Oh, you're getting me. See, you had to
Wake
talk
up.
about
Come on.
marathon training. You had to
Come on
talk about
now.
marathon training. Now you got me fired up. But
There it
the
is.
analogies on this are immense. So I've run 4 of them now, and that's not some sort of weird humble brag. But I'm here to tell you that like the reason why I ran my first marathon is because I have a cousin who's done these Ironman triathlons, and he knew that I was running. I was running every other day, 6 miles or whatever. And he's like, why haven't you done a race? I was like, I don't want to do a race. I don't want to run 20, 6 miles. I mean, why do I, want to do that? And he said this to me. He said, you're already a runner. And he said, Chris, all you got to do is the training. You just get the plan and you do the training, and the race is easy. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's trust me. And I was like, okay, this guy has run like 20 something marathons. He's run at that point, I think he had 4 Ironmans. He's done a few more. And he goes, it's easy. I was like, easy for you? He goes, no, my first one was easy because I did the training. And I was like, okay. So
Wow.
I look at the training and I said, well, the first run is like 3 miles. I run 6. He goes, nope, stick to the training. Your first day, you're running 3. Just do this, do this, do this. And of course, every day you're doing something, you do a rest or you do whatever. So I followed the training. And then he taught me this thing called maximum aerobic fitness, where you monitor your heart rate and you take your weight minus your age, I think, and your heart rate can't go over that. Or it's like 185 minus your age, something like that. Your heart rate can't go over it. And so I had a heart rate monitor on, and he goes, sometimes you're going to be going up a hill and it's going to go high. You may have to almost walk up a hill because you can't ever let your heart rate go up there. He goes, trust me, like in 2 weeks, you'll be able to run up that hill and your heart rate will stay low. You have to stay the course. You have to stay the course. This is how you run. The entire time I ran under my heart rate the entire time. He stick to the training, stick to the training. And the best part, James, was he said, we were driving, I'll never forget it. We were driving, it was Bayshore Marathon in Traverse City, Michigan. We were driving over on the way there, and he goes, you want to know the best part of today? And I was like, well, crossing the finish line. He goes, no. Here's the best part. He said, when you go and you start running your first 5 or 6 miles, you're going to feel like you're just running on air, right? But you have to slow down. You have to keep your heart rate down. He goes, what's going to happen is there's going to be people that are going to fly by you. They're just going to be flying by you. They're going to be, and they're just going to be running right by you. And then you're going to feel like you need to run faster. Don't. Stay the course, keep your heart rate low, let those people, because the best part of the race is at mile 19 through 22. You're going to see them laying on the side of the road, puking their guts out, holding their legs, shivering, being picked up by ambulances because they blew right past you and you're finishing the race and they didn't. I mean, I
knew there was going to be a lesson today.
But to me, that's like, there was so many content creator lessons in running a marathon. It wasn't even funny. And that was the one. It was just like, I'm running my race. I'm not running Alex Hormozy's race. I'm not running Gary Vaynerchuk's race. I'm not running James Hicks' race.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn from everybody. I'm going to get those nuggets and I'm going to help. I'm going to utilize those things to serve the people that I'm going to serve. It's my race.
And the fact that you're willing to learn, right? Willing that you're not locked in a closed room, head down, thinking that you have to do this all alone. I mean, so I've run 3 half marathons. So does that count somewhere?
Look at you.
in there?
Yeah. You add those up. It's 1.5.
Right.
Yeah.
So I've been to that wall and I've almost decided to give up, but I kept going as well. But the analogies in that story right there resonate for personal and professional life as well. And the fact that you say, do your own, run your race. Don't try to be like someone else. Overnight successes or someone that hot out of the start is not always going to end as it starts and as it looks.
Yeah.
Do the training, do the research, learn the tools, learn the infrastructure, learn the Final Cut or the DaVincis or the StreamYards or the Ecams, right? Learn your camera, understand exposure triangles, right? Do that work as opposed to cheating yourself out of the joy of knowing something. Because we as consultants, we call ourselves subject matter experts, we call ourselves trusted advisors. It's kind of our role to kind of be 10% more knowledgeable. I'm not going to say more advanced, but 10% more knowledgeable than the next
Yeah.
person, so we can actually coach, train, educate, that kind of thing. That's the value that we tend to hopefully bring to our community. But we can't do that, and we can't be that person if we're always just looking for the cliff notes.
That's right, man.
There we go.
That's
Another
absolutely
flashback.
right. No, that's right. And it's the same people that want to get the free version of all of the software and the free,
Yeah.
things, and expect
Crazy
that
talk.
they're going to, like, that their expectations are that they're going to have something excellent. No, you got the free version. Now you have to invest. You have to invest your time and effort and your available, expendable, money in order to do it. In order to say, okay, like, if I'm going to do this, I have to. I need to strive for excellence, and if I'm going to strive for excellence, I got to go for it. And I just feel like most people, unfortunately, just don't have the willingness to do what it takes to put in that work, to be successful. And they're the ones that are rubbing their knees at mile 14, when I'm running by them.
So let me ask you about this, because that brings up a question right there, right? We're kind of saturated right now, right, in this creative space. And when the world stopped a few years ago, I think a lot of folks came in and said, "Listen, I want to do video, I want to do podcasts, I want to do YouTube, I want to do whatever. I want to start my own membership. I want to start my own workshops. I want to start doing that thing."
Yeah.
But
I want to play guitar.
haven't picked one up yet, right? Or maybe that was you. I'm sorry. I don't want to. We're having a therapy session for you right here. If they're not doing this work and staying in front of the time, staying in front of the technology, staying in front of the needs of community again that we're trying to serve, where do you see it going again? I like to talk short and midterm. I don't like to talk long term, especially within the technology world, because who knows what that can turn into. We're not the Jetsons yet. We're not flying cars just yet. But again, short, midterm, 1 to 2 years kind of things. The folks that are staying that course, the folks that are taking the time to go through the training, the folks that are taking the time to learn the skills, where do you see it going for us that are actually building content, building community, building YouTube channels, building newsletters, building audio and video podcasts? Do you see kind of an evolution that's going to happen in terms of just that aspect?
I do. And I think you're already seeing it now where Facebook is pulling out, people with the, inability to do certain live streaming things. We're hearing, things about TikTok. We're hearing things about other platforms. And, we could talk all you want about, working, off of the rented land, so to speak, and not hinging everything that you have on YouTube or Instagram, or, if you have an entire business that's, hinged on something that you can't control, you're sitting on sand. And so you really, really, especially if you're a solopreneur, you really have to figure out, and it's not easy, man. It's not easy. It's easy to say, but you have to be able to create something valuable for the people that are following you. And I think, James, you talk about the way things are moving in the last 2 years. I mean, in the last 2 years, the way AI has taken everything by storm. I think, there is a fear that people think that they're either missing out on something, like, oh God, this is happening so fast. There should be, like, what are all these things? Should I be subscribing to newsletters? Should I do, what are some sources that I could use, and all of those things? I think all of that noise keeps people from doing stuff.
Yeah.
And I think if you could just have a laser focus on who you're serving, and you could just pick one thing, and if it's a podcasting, right, and you get good at that, stop worrying about, if you're doing your prompting right with ChatGPT, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying, do it, but, don't think you have to be a master or expert at it. You've got to put in the reps. It's not going to happen for you overnight. But I think the people that can do something, like the one thing, the book, the one thing or whatever, and the whole multitasking, if you've got too much going on, you don't have one thing going on, right? So you have to focus on that. And if you focus on something, you create something that is excellent. That's what rises above the noise. You talk about it in your shows, James. It's, if you just think that you create one piece of content and you throw it into this big blender and spit it out into 56 different places, and it's going to work for you, or you can just check that box of saying, I've got all of these things, look at all of the things that I've done, but nobody sees it. It's because you're just adding to this pile of mediocrity that's in the middle that looks and sounds like everything else. And not only are people not resonating with it as humans, but the algorithms are squashing you. Like if you listen, there's some great software out there that you can utilize that will help you to create this content, and it utilizes AI. But if you're just using templates that they give you, so is everyone else. So everyone's content looks the same and sounds the same. Listen, Alex Hormozy is taken. Stop using his shorts.
Do not come online with a nose thing. What was it? The nose strip, right? Don't do
He's
him.
Great. He's fantastic, but he's taken, ladies and gentlemen. You can learn things from him. Stop trying to make a Xerox copy of him. And I think the people that carve their path and are excellent at it are the ones that rise above that mediocrity.
What's crazy about that is, and thank you for those statements as well, because
man,
everything, a lot of what we do, you, me, and a lot of other folks within kind of the inner circles, is all intentional and all with purpose, right? It's kind of almost ADHD, right? In terms of that everything is in its place specifically. Like again, if you look at behind me in this room, and I know your room as well, your studio as well, everything is where it's supposed to be there when it's supposed to be, whatever I just said. But I want to go back to this one particular thing. I'm coming up with some weird parables right here now.
We're getting philosophical.
That's what it is. This is a new book in the good book.
There we go.
You mentioned something that I didn't want to pass up about YouTube being the second biggest search engine. Mm-hmm. What's the first largest search engine?
Google
or Softball. Who owns both of those companies? Same right. Organization owns it.
Yeah, exactly.
You stated that whenever you're looking for information, one of the first places you go is YouTube.
Correct.
We consume content off of YouTube very differently, right? We almost investigated. We evaluate what we see on that platform, I think, differently than a typical consumer, and I think that's a good thing, because again, we're part of that machine. And talking about onus again, I think it's an onus on us if we're going to live on that platform, if we're going to provide content on that platform to a community, that we, again, I'm going to use some of the words that you use, that you said that I use, rise above that noise.
Yep.
Make it such that it is easy to consume, that it's relevant to solving a problem, that it's relevant to the person who's looking for something. If someone does a search for X, Y, and Z, that you actually have something out there that's concise, clear, to the point, not a lot of hot air and things like that, but that you are actually trustworthy, all the good things, right? But again, that's where we tend to start. But we consume YouTube differently, and I think again it's a good thing, because we are building businesses as part of that platform.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I think a lot of the stuff and the other thing I think that I've been able to help people with is they think that the content that they put on YouTube needs to be this polished, edited, amazed thing, and they think that they have to invest in all of these a person to produce and edit and all of those things. I was like, listen, no, that's not, no, yeah, that's not at all what you need to do. You need to have content that is you on YouTube. So if someone is Googling you or your business or your service and they want to know what you do, who it's for, and how much you are, they can find it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And if it should not be something that looks like a commercial. If it looks like a commercial and smells like a commercial, people are going to skip it. They're trained to do that in YouTube.
That's what we do.
That's part of the YouTube thing is the ads play before. So don't make it look like a commercial. Make it look like you. And this is coming from a guy that spends way too much time editing and polishing videos. But I think, the people who don't know how to do that yet, or don't yet have the not just the ability or experience, but the money and the time to invest in doing like something like that, get yourself a cockpit like James and I have, and somewhere it doesn't have to be, it just can be a corner of your house that you can turn into some sort of quote unquote studio where you have something that looks halfway decent, doesn't cost a lot of money. Make sure there's fluffy stuff around. It's a dead room. You got a halfway decent dynamic microphone it's better that you can be understood than have like glorious 4K video like James Hicks has. You have to.
Why you throw that in?
Yeah. Oh man, you're always extra crispy, man.
Always. That's goodness, though. That's goodness.
People just think that like, they're just so nervous, and like you got to go. Like you got to get video 1 in, 2, 3. Like you gotta, and it has to be. Trust me, and video 4 is going to be way better than video 1, but you got to do video 1.
That's true.
And
you have to live through the challenges of going live, because live will happen. And just like last week, I had a power outage here in my area. So you have, right?
You weren't supposed to say that. Now you jinxed it.
But you've got to live through that to know what to do, right? And contingencies were in place. Speaking of that, and I'm gonna bring this plane in. But yeah, when things like that, I actually look for things like that to happen. I was surprised when it did, because I don't know why but we won't go into that. But contingencies in place, isolated recordings for audio and video, battery backups, all of the things. So I actually expect something to happen, and that keeps me sharp. So when the power in all of the city of Roseville apparently went out and my UPS didn't work, I was a little concerned, but we'll deal with that as well. Just keep doing the thing, man. Listen, I want to keep these. I'm
just now noticing this. I mean, you've got tech news going on down here.
This is technology. This is a technology conversation.
People are reading about how Google is doing Google Books and AI now instead of listening to me.
No, see, this is a technology conversation. This is wrapping it around. This is like the bow around the Chris Stone conversation.
Nice.
Castahead.net.
James, your shows are always so well put together, man. I really and I mean that. I know we've been joking around. We bust each other's chops, but I really you have a fantastic spirit of excellence, man. And I think when you put together shows like this, you're too humble, and you're probably like, shut up, Chris, stop talking about me. But like, I really appreciate people like yourself that take this very seriously, like you do. And we have fun, and that's part of it. This is a lot of fun, but you also take this incredibly seriously, and it shows.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you, man. I'm humbled just to be in the presence of you and everyone that's in the comments. MDH came in late. Appreciate you for being here as well, my friend. I like to keep these short, concise, focused, to the point, and I got to come up with another analogy. You've heard me say about my crack dealer analogy, so I shouldn't even have said it, but give them a little bit. Then they come back next 2 weeks or whenever for the next session when
I see what you're saying. So you're like the crack tech dealer.
That's it, man. I'm just giving you just a little bit until you got to come back, right? Like Chris Stone was dropping these gems. Oh man, I got to come back next time. Right? I'm itching for it. Right? We talked about being in tune with your audience. We talked about the importance of station. We didn't get into that piece, but avoiding easy, all that good stuff, right? I'm gonna
That's
put
the cheat
links.
code right there. That's the
That's the
cheat
cheat
code.
code. Yeah.
Kirk Nugent talks about that all the time, and it is so key. Station identification, that is a cheat code. It's like let everybody know they're in the right place, or if they're on the wrong plane, you let them know. It's station identification. You are here with James Hicks on Rock 107, where you can hear the greatest hits of 1972. Here's Deep Purple with Space Trucking.
I used to. I worked in the music industry. I've
I
done
know
some
you
Deep
told
Purple
me
show.
you
Yeah.
brought
So
Steven Tyler a
I've been
smoothie
around the
or
block,
something.
brother. I've been around the block. Dr. Stone, all of your links will be in the description. So I'm gonna put your YouTube and put the correct website as well, castahead.net.
That'd be good. .net.
I'm gonna put the newsletter as well, because you put out some really
Thank you.
good information, man. So I want to have you back. As you know,
Love
I won't do it to you late in the evening like I did just now. I know you're East Coast, and you notice I didn't do it like tomorrow. I didn't ask you for tomorrow. I'm gonna be watching the NCAA game, so we didn't do it Friday night.
Oh yeah. Got the games.
That's it, man. All right, brother. Tell the folks real quick where they can catch you. But again, it's going to be in the description. But you, sir, are just an honorable person, so I appreciate you for coming in as well.
Thank you, sir. It's castahead.net. You can connect with me on all the socials at chrisstone.contact.
That guy right there. Folks, we appreciate you. If you enjoyed today's conversation, let me know. If you didn't enjoy today's conversation, still let me know so we can.
Oh, I thought you were going to say if you didn't enjoy it, let Chris know.
Man, I'm gonna have some gems when I cut this up in about an hour. I'm gonna have some stuff here that's just gonna go. I'm gonna go mini viral with this right here. Thanks, brother. You get to yourself, man.
Thank you, man.
Later.